On today's video, we take a look at the USS Franklin and why people want it. We take a look at the overview, the blueprint it takes to build, the frequency modulators, the pros and cons, and more. Please note this is not a video on how to get the USS Franklin, but you can check out that video below. So this week's past events have got everyone really super excited about the USS Franklin. So, what is the USS Franklin and why is everyone so excited about it? The USS Franklin NX-326 was a 22nd century Federation Freedom Class Starship, and this was kind of operated by Starfleet, and, it's kind of one of those older ships, kind of one of those relic ships. This was, of course, 200 years before the Enterprise and the Discovery, so this is a pretty awesome ship, and it's a pretty old ship too. So why are people really excited about it? Well, there's a few number of reasons. First of all, this is a ship from the Kelvin universe, and in this alternate reality, by 2263, the Franklin was discovered on Altamide, by Officer Jayla in Star Trek Fleet Command. She placed it under a holographic cloak, used it as a residence. And this ship was pretty awesome at defeating the Swarm. Now, we'll go over the Swarm in later detail, but I find it remarkable just because, at the time, the Franklin was a, first-class Starfleet starship, but, it's become this old relic, and as it happens, it's even better than the Enterprise at defeating the Swarm because of its sort of analog kind of signals. It does radio signals, it does all these other cool things. And, it's actually a really good ship to use against the Swarm. So I find this fascinating. And as we'll see later on, it is a very easy ship to have and to use. So right, let's get more in detail here. Up next, we'll be taking a look at the USS Franklin overview. The blueprint it takes to build, the parts, the gas, the titanium, the dilithium, the hours, and the pros and cons. Up next. Alright, so I bet by now you are super excited to build the USS Franklin, and I don't blame you. So let's go over in more detail about what it takes to build the USS Franklin. So if you do have the blueprints, and we will be going over in more detail about how to get these blueprints, but if you do have the blueprints, right now it takes about 50 uncommon 2-star gas to build, 35,000 titanium, and 1,400 dilithium. Now, of course, this depends on your research that you've done to undertake. But of course, this is pretty easy way to go. This is a super cheap ship to build. It's an Explorer class starship, and my one coming out of the gate is about 28,000. So this is before upgrading any of its tiers like that, and it has pretty good attack, pretty good defense, pretty good health for a ship of its size. So this is of course an Explorer uncommon starship. So as you can see here in more detail, it does take 300 frequency modulators to build. Now, you're probably asking, what are frequency modulators? Well, these are pretty old components which are used inside the ship, and you can get them by defeating Swarm. So I highly recommend, whether you're using your Kumari, your Kira, whatever ship it is, go out, use 2 ships if you have to, but get those 300 3-star parts from the Swarm. You really need them to build this, to build the Franklin. So yeah, it takes about 9 hours to build, but of course, if you have been saving up those speed ups, like I've always been telling you guys, save up the speed ups because, you really need them to build this. So for me, it depends, of course, on the research that you do, but it does take about 9 hours, 5 minutes for me to build the Franklin, which is not a lot of time really, if you think about it. It's less than a day. So it's not a lot of time at all. So I'm going to go ahead and, of course, build this now, just to show you guys building this. And, let's take a look at the pros and cons next. So for sure, there are a lot more cons than pros when building the Franklin, when having the Franklin, I should say. So, some of the cons, it is a slower ship. It is an older ship, a warp factor 4. But, of course, you can upgrade the warp engines later on. It does have pulsed phase cannons. Now, this is, of course, a weaker system than the new phase cannons. And it does have spatial torpedoes. And this is kind of an older version of the new photon torpedoes. So, it does have a weaker attack against normal foe. And, of course, it does have polarized hull plating. Now, this is an older version of the deflector shielding. So, this is definitely not a ship for taking on normal hostiles. This is a very specialized ship, only for defeating swarm and other kinds of special event creatures. But what's kind of interesting is ships also sometimes polarize their hull plating to kind of help mask their sensory signature. And this worked by interfering with enemy sensor scans and such. So, polarizing the hull was done by downed vessels as well to help their mothership locate them. So I'm kind of thinking, is STFC going to kind of integrate a kind of way where they utilize this polarized hull plating? So maybe they'll introduce even more special abilities with the Franklin. Maybe it'll help mask sensory signatures down the road. Who knows, right? Like, we'll have to wait and see. And of course, another con, you can only upgrade the USS Franklin to a certain point. So after that, you will need special tokens to upgrade its warp drive and other such features. So, this is a big con, really. And, let's go into some of the pros. So the USS Franklin is effective in killing the swarm, using these radio signals. So it's good for these resource events. And of course, the damage is multiplied by 24 against these swarm ships. And of course, that 24 number does go up. And another pro, it is cheap to build, but it is also cheap to repair. I cannot stress enough how cheap it is to repair this ship. So based on the pros and cons, there's a lot of cons with this ship, but it is effective in killing the swarm, which you do need to get those special tokens. So it's kind of a mixed bag, really, with the Franklin. Up next, we finish building the USS Franklin and we take her out for a spin. Let's go out and swarm. Up next. Alright, so the Franklin is in my shipyard, and now let's take a look at what it takes, to really build her up. So, it has a lot of relatively good attack for an Explorer class, and I can upgrade a lot of things. So let's take a look here. So, it's pretty good attack, and, protected cargo. You have sabotage, of course, the shield does take a lot. Takes 900 of those frequency modulator parts, 18,000, so it's not too bad. This is, of course, 2-star common crystal, so the first tier isn't too bad to upgrade. So yeah, I'm going to kind of probably upgrade the shield at some point. And the cargo bay, 250, 9,000. This is pretty average for the cargo bay. It has phaser beams, energy weapons, typical of an explorer, 2 energy phaser beam weapons, 3 energy phaser beam weapons. Okay, so that isn't too bad at all. So it does take a lot of these, frequency modulators to use. So I'm definitely going to upgrade all of this, just to kind of upgrade this. Oh, interesting. Okay, so the warp engines do take a special part to use. So I suspect you will have to buy a pack to, kind of get those warp engine parts. And, without these warp engine parts, you won't be able to go to deeper parts of the Swarm Galaxy. So, this is typical of a free-to-play game. So yeah, that's one of the major downsides. It does take these parts to upgrade the warp engines, and yeah, I'm sure later on it'll take a lot of rares to use as well. So I'm going to upgrade this as much as I can, just to kind of get us into the swarm. And yeah, by no means is this a normal ship. You know, you will need to buy some packs to use this, and I think there may be an event going on right now, but we'll check that out later on. But I mean, yeah, on the bridge I do have Big Shot Sulu, so this is going to help me attack the swarm, but I'm really going to see like how much swarm I can really take out with this. So let's go into the swarm area now. So I'm going to check out the galaxy view. Let's have a look here. Let's check out this new map. So I am going to go to Altamede, just because that is the system in the game. Sorry, not in the game, in the Kelvin universe. In the movies, that's where the swarm originated from. So we're going to go there, level 17 system. So this has been the USS Franklin overview video. Check out my next video where I'm going to see how many swarm I can attack in the given time. And, you know, let's see how successful this ship is right off the bat. And yeah, check out my next video. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Alright, see you guys.